ACC tournament. Matt, welcome back. We just spoke yesterday. We said, you said you thought last night was, Syracuse had a chance. All these teams in the bottom half of the ACC are about the same. Syracuse went out and they took care of business. What did you like most about the way they played last night?
Well, I thought they were really cohesive, especially on the defensive end. They found a way not only to get stops, but to get the rebound. Offensively, they moved the ball really well, I thought, in the first, 12 minutes of the game or so. That went away for a bit, but they, when they're at their best, do move the ball, move people, get quality looks. When they're at their worst, it gets a little stagnant. But you still have J.J. Starling, who can get to the rim against just about anybody. Last night it was just unfortunate to see him basically miss layups. I thought they were atrocious on fast break and some of those types of opportunities where it looked like, that's why they had the perception they should have had a much bigger lead than they did. But all in all, we can't complain.
Yeah, they still go through these stretches where they can't score. They went about 6 minutes without a point last night and allowed Florida State to cut that 16-point deficit down to 6, and then eventually got to a one-possession game, and they were able to hang on for dear life at the end. What happens during those stretches? And I know we've kind of asked you this before, and you said, well, they have some deficiencies, and when you play a 40-minute game, those deficiencies are going to show up at times. What happens during those 5 to 6 minute stretches where they can't seem to stop the bleeding when the other team starts to make a run?
Yeah. Adrian Autry's offensive philosophy is, above all else, spread the floor. And when you spread the floor, you should, in theory, open up driving lanes, for that matter, passing lanes, make it difficult on the defense to certainly cover two people with one man. You don't ever want to have that. Make them pay for double teams and that type of thing. That's the benefit of spreading the floor. Well, when you're not making shots, how well can you really spread it? And they weren't making shots other than the first couple minutes of the game. They made their only 2 3-pointers of the night. So there had the stretches there where Chris Bell was ineffective, where Lucas Taylor, who had plenty of really good shots, couldn't get any of them to go, and then the defense doesn't really have to go out there quite as much. So now you're still trying to sort of spread the floor with players that the defense doesn't have to honor to the same degree. And you get this sense of, okay, well, we just wind up and it's 10 on the shot clock, and here goes JJ having to create or do something because they haven't been able to either get it into Eddie or Jair or what have you. So that's why that perception, I think, comes up, and then they legitimately have had scoring droughts. So, to me, the biggest thing, if I were Coach Autry, their set plays tend to work. I would call more plays.
Yeah.
I think when in doubt, whether it's off a timeout or any sort of stoppage, get something that will get a quality look. And they had plenty of looks. Again, Taylor and Bell in particular, who were, in essence, 0 for the night from 3-point range, still had their chances. They've got to make some of those. Yeah,
they certainly have to make them tonight against SMU. I do want to ask you about the other end of the floor before we move on to SMU. You look at SU's last 3 wins. Gave up 60 points against NC State, gave up 70 against Virginia, gave up 62 to Florida State. Defense has obviously been a problem for this team all season long. Are they getting better on that end? Or, Adrian said after the NC State game, they helped us out. They missed a lot of shots. Florida State missed a lot of shots last night as well. Didn't shoot it well from 3. Is SU getting better from on defense, or is the other team, kind of helping the cause? Or is it a combination of both?
Well, obviously it always comes back to both. But I think they are permitting fewer easy shots. There's been a couple times here, head scratchers where a player seemed to be in defensive position and then for whatever reason bailed out. The guy had a 6-footer or something like that, or poor rotation, poor help defense leading to layups. You haven't seen quite as much of that. When they do go zone, to beat a zone, you either have to shoot well over the top of it or move the ball very well inside of it. And, these other teams, obviously, we're not talking about great teams either, have not done a great job with that. So, is this a lockdown defensive team? Of course not, at this stretch. But they're capable. They're capable really at both ends, and that's why they've shown some flashes this year. They just have not done it consistently enough.
All right, we just saw this matchup a week ago between Syracuse and SMU, a game in which Syracuse had a big lead. SMU stormed back in the second half at home and was able to come up with that 77-75 win. J.J. Starling, 1 for 10 from three-point range. Since that game, he has attempted 2 3-pointers. He is 0 for 1 in the both games since then against Virginia and Florida State. I would imagine that's, of course, by design. SMU was kind of daring him to take threes that night. Do you think JJ can be as effective as he has been the last couple of games without shooting threes, or is he going to have to make a couple tonight to soften up the defense a little bit?
Yeah, I think you'd like to see him make a couple, but I don't know that it has to be him.
Okay.
It certainly helps, and that helps his individual game. Somebody's got to make a couple 3-pointers here. I mean, and again, it's not like every shot's been an impossible shot. The offense has created open looks, or the circumstances of the game has created open looks. And for good shooters, I mean, we all are of the belief that Chris Bell's a good shooter, even if he hasn't had a great year. And when you look at it in reality, you got to give Lucas Taylor some credit. I don't think we really did give him much credit during the year for any sort of offensive exploits, but this late in the season, he's a 40% three-point shooter. So all you're asking for is, can you give me 2 for 5?
Yeah.
If both those guys went 2 for 5, and if JJ went 1 for 4, I think you would like your chances in that situation. Starling's strength is getting to the basket. Does he always finish? No. He gets to the free throw line a bunch, and he's not an especially good foul shooter, but again, if you shoot 75%, you'll take that. So, but he hasn't done that lately. I mean, last time he was 3 for 8 at the line. That's leaving 3 points out there. So he's a mixed bag. Obviously, you're better off with him than without, and you hope everything clicks, because I don't think they can beat a good team without JJ having a good game.
In covering him for the last couple of years, and I'm just curious if this has kind of come up in conversation, whether it's with him or maybe Jerry last year, or one of the assistant coaches this year, the hitch that he has in his free throw shooting, has that come up at all in kind of your conversations with either him or the coaches? And
I don't think I've asked anybody specifically about it. I'm sure it's kind of we're on good terms with JJ. I don't know that I've asked him or will ask him directly. It's almost kind of embarrassing, right?
Sure,
I think I think that's the sense I get watching him. I think everything slows down to a kind of an uncomfortable degree, and I feel like he feels he's sort of exposed out there, and it just sort of, I get nervous watching him at the free throw line. That hit's just not good for anybody. There's certainly nobody that's talked him into it. Right. He has kind of a, for those of us that love golf and try to play golf, he's got the sort of Sanjay M kind of super slow,
it's a good analogy,
kind of backswing, which looks uncomfortable. But if you were to take a lesson, that they would drool over that. They would try to get you to do that. And so to each their own. As long as it goes through the bucket, good, all's well that ends well. In his case, in fairness, he wound up as a 72% foul shooter for the year. So that's not good, but it's not really deficient either. So,
sure.
I think he's just got to go out there, and easy for us to say, just go out there and shoot it. I think he'd be better off if he kind of thought about it less.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we see, it seems like the ones he misses are usually the big ones, right? And so that almost comes back to thinking about it too much. But, to your point, 72% free throw shooter. They got to find somebody who can, consistently make those free throws down the end of games. That was an issue last night.
Those are two big ones for Cuff.
Yeah,
night.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's tough, coming in cold off the bench like that. I mean, that's, kudos to him for stepping up and knocking those down.
Yeah, I think his makeup is conducive to that more than others.
Yeah.
We always talk about him like he might make a bad play here or there, but every play he makes is out of aggression and going forward.
Yeah.
So I think you take a chance of that.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I guess last one for you, Matt. If you had a handicap tonight and kind of put a percentage on it for Syracuse, what kind of percent chance are you giving them to pull off the upset tonight?
40.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to know that they were right there against SMU the last time. You know, the best player is Boopy, but I think on the floor for both teams, I'd love to see Starling match wits with him. But Boopy Miller's so quick on the dribble, he really puts a lot of stress on you. You think about the last basket of the game in Dallas last week. You know, he turns the corner against, you know, supposedly a strong on-ball defender in Jaquan Carlos. It forces help, which forces a missed rotation, which forces allows for a tip-in at the buzzer, and that's how SMU won the game. So we'll see. I don't know that, SMU, they missed a bunch of free throws in that first game. We'll see. They're not likely to do that again, but we'll see. That's why they play the games. SMU can't feel super confident coming in. I mean, they nearly lost to Syracuse. Then they did lose to Florida State.
Yeah, right. And I think a lot of SU fans would take 40%, in the second round of the ACC tournament based on the year that they had. So, as you said, lace them up. Hopefully SU can make some threes and make this thing interesting tonight. Matt, we appreciate the time. Have a great call, and hopefully we'll continue to talk as this week progresses.
Okay, sounds good. Happy to do it.
All right, voice of the Orange, Matt Park, joining us. With that, we'll hit a timeout.